Okay, so I will be demoing Parker's work from this week, or some of Parker's work. So the first and very exciting one here is the async processing of reports. So Ryan already alluded to this a little bit, but I'm going to do kind of a little more in-depth demo here. So before I start, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a bulk zip file of like 20 different files. And then I will also upload just one very large file, so the Bible in a text file. And what we're going to see is it's going to process very quickly. And really what it's doing is passing these files back to a queue, a task queue on the back end that does the actual processing of the reports. So we can immediately return to the user. They can see the files are uploading, and in the background, all of the actual processing happens. So let's go through that. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to upload a file. I've got this bulk test zip here. Let's go ahead and upload this. There's 20 files. And so you can see them start to complete here. And if I go over to our task queue and refresh, you'll see all of these new records here just showed up. So these are all of the individual files in our task queue that are being uploaded. And if we go back, it's just about done. It's at 18 out of 20 already. But really the only thing we have to wait for now is two things. Is one, the file gets uploaded to GCS, to our cloud storage bucket. And then number two is the task gets added to the queue itself. So as soon as those two things, I believe that's it, Parker, correct me if I'm wrong. But it's really just those two things that need to happen before we get this green kind of done mark back. We can also add tags while we're doing this, just like we could before. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and you'll notice that there's an auto refresh here as well. So I did not have to hit refresh on this page for these new items to show up. And the other cool thing is you'll notice some of these are empty, right? Like some of this bulk file has a summary here already in the original content, others do not. And so the reason for that is as the tasks are being grabbed from this queue one at a time by our backend processing system, they are slowly updating those summaries and all the different key concepts and the other pieces that we add into a report. So that's why some of them look to be like half complete, others are finished. That's kind of what's going on here. But really all you need to chat with the file, right, is that the file has been uploaded to the vector database. That's really the only requirement for starting to chat with it. We don't need the executive summary. We don't need anything else. So you'll kind of see that start to fill in as we go and as it refreshes here. So yeah, those all seem to be done, which is great. And if we go back to the task queue, we should see that they're all done. So all of these files are now complete and they're all off of the queue. One of my favorite things about the new task queue is actually the retry logic, which seems pretty simple, but a lot of the report failures that we were seeing were things that are, I don't know, somewhat out of our control, right? It's like issues with our Hugging Face API and things like that. And it's very hard to predict or isolate those events and fix them. So with the retry logic, if a one report from the queue fails on upload, we don't just say, oh, it failed, we can't help you. We put it back into the queue and retry on that file, hoping that, that issue with Hugging Face maybe was just like a temporary latency thing or something like that. So it will retry, which should hopefully help increase the success rate of our uploads, as a whole. So we should see fewer files just fail in general. So you can see that here, max attempts is 5, how many times it will retry, and it does this exponential back off. So it'll try again once, and then it'll wait even longer the next time to retry, and then it'll wait even longer after that the next time. So we kind of space out the retries farther and farther each time, just to give ourselves more time to get past any, underlying issues, things like that. But this is amazing too. So we can do another upload. Let's try, I think I have to close this to do the upload again. Let's try the Bible here. So the Bible used to take about 1.5 minutes to process. So the user would have to wait here for at minimum 1.5 minutes if everything's going great. I just got a 200 status back in about 2 or 3 seconds here. And then let's see if we can get the refresh here. Okay, I don't see, I'm not sure what the refresh kind of schedule or logic is here specifically, but we should see it in the queue. There it is right there. And we can even click into the task if we want to know more information about that task specifically. And then the other thing is I did updates. We have this kind of diagram of what happens when you upload a file. So I did start to add in, I think there's some cleanup that can be done here, but I added these first two steps, which describe what I just talked about, right? Which is you upload a file, it gets uploaded to our GCS bucket, then gets added to the task queue, and then we immediately send a 200 status back to the user before we go and kick off the rest of the process, which now happens kind of async as a background task here. And then last thing I'll mention, when a file does fail, so let's say it goes through the retries, it starts to fail, we now are actually populating. I don't have an example here for you, but we have some like red text that would appear here that actually describes why the file failed and lets the user know what's going on, which is a much better user experience than just seeing like a red failed upload kind of message, which is really awesome.